Welcome back to the Morning Kickoff Show. I'm your host, Matt Witt, and today we are here to talk about Michael M.T. Thomas, a name we haven't mentioned in a couple years. Now, Michael Thomas missed the entire 2021 season, almost the entire 2020 season, and over the span has fallen out of everybody's top five, it appears. Could he have fallen out of everybody's top five because we feel like he's gotten worse? Could he have fallen out of people's top five because there's been a lot of better wide receivers who've stepped up in the last few years? These are all possible scenarios, but I ran a poll on my YouTube channel asking, is Michael Thomas a top 7 wideout? 83% of people who voted said no. And I want to mention real quick, this poll might be a little bit skewed, as a lot of people who watch the show are Minnesota Vikings fans, and Michael Thomas has disrespected our entire fan base before. So it might be a little bit skewed, but still 83% of people say Michael Thomas is no longer a top 7 wideout, whereas a few years ago, if I ran this poll would have been 100% yes. Over the last 3 years, Michael Thomas has become one of the most hated players in the entire league. Looking at players who are the most hated current NFL players, you're obviously looking at Antonio Brown. You're looking at Deshaun Watson. Maybe Michael Thomas is number 3 because of his attitude, because of his performance on the field, because of his refusal to play. Let's get into this. We have a lot to cover today, so we're going to cover on why Michael Thomas is so hated. So getting into the first one, and easily the most obvious, Slant Boy. Slant Boy is his new nickname because all of his receptions come off of slants. And you can argue this is a bad thing. You can argue this is a good thing. He's a very reliable slant receiver, as he ranked the best receiver off of slant routes since 2016. No question, easy. Give that to him. But he only eats those mid-range passes. And I want to mention real quick, because although a majority of his receptions come off of slants, a majority of his yards come after the catch. So the guy, you can say Slant Boy, and yes, he gets a lot of his receptions from slants. He is a monster after the catch. He has great hands. And I just want to say, Michael Thomas is a beast. He does not deserve the hate when you're looking at his performance on the field. I understand that he just runs slants and gets his receptions from slants, but the guy is a monster. And also this tweet that's right here, if you're watching on the YouTube show, this would be Carlton Davis, one of their arch rival, the Buccaneers, and put this and calls him Slant Boy after locking him down for 0 receptions in one of the games. Michael Thomas is a monster. And we're going to pull up his stats real quick, because looking at this, anybody can argue that he's the best receiver in the league to this day. I mean, look at this man. Over 100 receptions for 3 straight seasons where he made Pro Bowls. Over 1,200 receiving yards for 3 straight seasons. 149 receptions, 1,725, where he averaged 107.8 yards per game. You cannot argue that Michael Thomas is not good. You can't. You can argue, yes, he's not the most versatile receiver. Obviously, he's not. And I believe the addition of Chris Olave will be great, because Chris Olave runs a sub 4.4. What does Michael Thomas not do? He's not a deep threat at all. He eats on short range passes. He's a monster after the catch, and he's a Z receiver. That's his position on the Saints offense. Adding Chris Olave was a great addition for the Saints, as they have their play styles matched together perfectly. And I believe they also added Jarvis Landry, which is another good addition for them. So their offense added a lot of playmakers to where they can finish second in that division behind the Buccaneers, maybe even compete for first. But still, pulling up his stats, why is he still such a hated player? Yes, he gets all of his receptions from slants. Yes, he eats on the short range passes. He might be a monster after the catch. The guy is no deep threat. He's not going to be your do-it-all receiver like maybe a player like DJ Moore. Got to give respect to DJ Moore. I just had to throw that name drop DJ Moore here, because he can do everything and yet nobody respects him. But why do people hate Michael Thomas? Because yes, he's a beast. He might get all of his receptions from slants. That might be his nickname. The reason why people call him Slant Boy isn't because he gets his receptions from slants. It's because he hates it. He hates when people call him Slant Boy. If he didn't mind it, nobody would still be calling him Slant Boy. When people call him Slant Boy, he goes to the point of physically attacking them. And that's where we get on to the biggest reason why people hate Michael Thomas. And that is because of his attitude. Michael Thomas have beefed with other players around the league. He's beefed with reporters who've talked about him. He's beefed with his fans, his own fans, other fans around the league. He's punched his own teammates by just calling him Slant Boy. So the reason why people hate him, The reason why people call him Slant Boy isn't just because he gets his receptions from slants, it's because he actually hates it with a passion. And the biggest one is obviously him punching his teammates at practice. I think it was CJG or the Gardner Johnson guy who called him Slant Boy and he punched him in practice. I mean, obviously, this is the reason why people hate Michael Thomas. He's so easy to hate. He's a beast on the field. He is. Yes, he's not a versatile receiver, but he's a beast on the field and you can't deny it. But he's the easiest player to hate. Him alongside, obviously, Antonio Brown, Deshaun Watson. I mean, I can name a couple names in there. But the biggest reason is because of his beefs. Him punching his teammate is obviously the biggest one. Not only that, let's pull up some of his most notable ones. I can make a whole episode about him beefing with players, but this is a notable one. Him beefing with Devontae Parker. I believe this was back in 2020 or 2020. I believe this was him beefing with Devontae Parker on Instagram. Okay, Instagram. Yeah, a lot of people beef on Instagram. It's what happens. Players beef with players from other teams. I mean, this is typically what you see happen. I mean, these are competitive guys. Fine. Now let's go on to him beefing with reporters. Who beefs with reporters? This guy, Michael Thomas, not only beefs with reporters, let's find it real quick, threatens to punch a reporter. So this pisses me off. Him arguing with reporters. I hate when NFL players or reporters. This goes both ways. I'm not just looking at the reporter who is beefing with a 49ers fan. These guys have two total different jobs. A reporter's job is to cover stories. Michael Thomas's job, he can argue with reporters, he can disagree with reporters. Fine. It goes to the point of literally threatening a reporter. The reporter's job is to cover stories. If you get mad when a reporter is covering his stories, you have a problem. And then let's be honest, Michael Thomas, you can put him on the list with Antonio Brown. You can put him on the list with Deshaun Watson. And I don't know why Michael Thomas has not played since 2020. He says it's his injuries. Fine. I believe he was cleared to play this last season, didn't play. Okay, we'll get into that. We're going to get into that in a second. But here's him beefing with a Minnesota Vikings reporter who was talking, or a reporter in the NFL who was talking about the Vikings here. And obviously, Michael Thomas trolling the Minnesota Vikings fan base after losing to the 49ers when we just beat you in your own stadium the week before. Seems like a little bit of an immature move if you ask me. Yeah, just a tad bit. Also, another report, like we mentioned before, Saints star wide receiver Michael Thomas punched teammate CGJ during a fight in practice per sources. That's why Thomas was ruled out for Monday's game against the Chargers for what the club is calling team discipline. Everybody knows this story. I don't have to go into more of this story. It happened in 2020 when Michael Thomas punched his own teammate CJG. He is not the only NFL player who punched CJG. CJ might be the best trash talker in the entire league. And why did he punch him? Like I mentioned before, all he had to do was say Slant Boy. And Michael Thomas can't take a simple, small joke. Nothing's bad with being a slant wide receiver. There are multiple slant wide receivers out there who are excellent, with Michael Thomas maybe being on top of that, and all he has to do is run slants. It feels like kind of a compliment, if you ask me. He only does one thing, and he's the best at one thing, and that's all he does for his offense, and yet he puts up numbers. Seems like kind of a compliment, if you ask me. And a lot of his slants are short routes, but let's not forget the guy's a monster after the catch. That's where a lot of his yards do come from. So this two simple words, Slant Boy, makes him lose his mind. And this is why players, fans, and his own teammates don't like him. On top of that, I just want to say Slant Boy is kind of a compliment. He's now a Z receiver who's going to eat on mid-range pass or short-range passes. You got Jameis Winston throwing to you. You're fine. He can throw 2 yards, no problem. You added the Chris Olave, who's one of the best deep threats in this class, runs a sub 4.4. There's no reason for Michael Thomas to ever have to be a deep threat. There's no reason for him to have to be a deep threat. Now you got Chris Olave on your team, where we'll have to see what Jameis Winston can do with his arm. But that leads me on to my other reason why people hate Michael Thomas, and that's because people say that he needs Drew Brees. Drew Brees, one of the best quarterbacks of all time, one of the best of this generation. Drew Brees was a monster. And through Michael Thomas's 3-year span where he was elite, I will say 4-year span, from rookie season to obviously the season where he won Offensive Player of the Year, he was a monster. But I hate this argument. The argument when people say that wide receivers are only as good as the quarterback grinds my gears. Because it goes both ways. Wide receivers can be only as good as their quarterback, but quarterbacks can be only as good as their wide receivers. It's the supporting cast around the quarterback that makes the quarterback great, and it's the supporting cast around the wide receiver that makes the wide receiver great. I shouldn't even be having to say this. The idea that Michael Thomas is only good because of Drew Brees blows my mind, as I believe even with Michael Thomas, we'll see him put up similar numbers than he did with Drew Brees. Now, we're going to have to wait and see if he's actually going to play without Drew Brees, or if he's going to probably punch another teammate and not even be able to play this next season. That's another possibility. But the fact that he's in nobody's top 7, even though his last fully healthy season, he put up 1725 receiving yards with over 107 yards per game, and he's in nobody's top 7. It's almost like we forgot how good he is. Either that, or we don't want to respect him because of how bad of a player off the field he is. This feels really similar to the Antonio Brown situation. Everybody knows Antonio Brown's elite. Everybody knows Michael Thomas is elite, but nobody wants to admit it because he beefs with his players, he beefs with his own teammates, he beefs with other players and NFL fans and reporters. I mean, is there anybody Michael Thomas doesn't want smoke with? No. This is how it goes. And I just want to say, please, these players have to educate themselves on the CTE. You can't just dismiss the fact that this guy probably has something in his head that's just continuing to cause him to have low self-control and kind of overreact in a lot of situations. This is why Michael Thomas is maybe right now, who can actually play, because Antonio Brown and Deshaun Watson likely won't play, the most hated player in the NFL right now could go to Michael Thomas. His character, he's very limited on the field. And the guy is just not a likable dude. He's so easy to dislike. There are some players who are just so easy to dislike. And one of that will have to go to Michael Thomas. Thank you.